Bukayo Saka, David Alaba, Jamal Musiala. At some point, all these players were eligible to play for Nigeria, to indeed don the colors of the Nigerian Super Eagles. But what happened? Why, didn't they play for Nigeria? And why aren't other dual nationals playing for Nigeria? I know we have Ademola Lookman, which is very good to see that he plays for Nigeria with pride. You know, was very important and instrumental to Nigerian Super Eagles getting to the final of the AFCON. But there are other players that should have played for Nigerian Super Eagles that haven't played for Nigerian Super Eagles and have played for other countries, which is fair enough. And then as well, we have players currently at the minute that could play for Nigerian Super Eagles, but we're unsure if they would play for Nigerian Super Eagles. So listen to me while I explain. Now, I know some people would say it's the player's choice. Of course, 100%. That I really appreciate, and I hope FIFA doesn't change this. It should always remain the player's choice. If a player says, "Oh, I'm English, my dad is Nigerian, my mom is Ghanaian, but I was born in, let's say, I was born in Leeds, so I was born in London. I've grown up. That's the only thing I've known all my life. I'm English. I want to play for the Three Lions of England." Beautiful, no problem with that whatsoever. But the thing is, sometimes, or in many occasions, the NFF and the administrators have not done enough to get these players, to convince these players to play for Nigerian Super Eagles. Now, normally, when it comes to international football, players don't have a choice where they play for. So it's either you're playing for England right off the bat, or you're playing for Nigeria straight up, or you're playing for Scotland, or you're playing for Germany, Spain, so on and so forth. You're playing for them automatically. But every so often, you have players who have dual nationalities. Maybe they are born in a country, they have citizenship of that country, their parents, or grandparents have nationality of another country, so they have dual nationalities. In that situation, those players, they have a choice to make. It's no longer automatic for them. One football federation can't just say, "Oh, you must play for England, or you must play for Spain, or you must play for Nigeria." If you think the player's ability or skill is good enough, for your team, is what you need, then you as an association should go all out and try to convince these players, knowing that there's another association that has the legal right as well to have that player play for them if they're able to convince the player. So that we should have that out of the way. And now, there was an interview that Chuba Akpom, the Nigerian player, he has one nationality as well. He's Nigerian and English as well. So he used to play for Ajax, but he's since signed for Lille. There's an interview he granted to Omar Akatuba. Check out the interview in a video I did in a live stream I did. You can check out the video there, or you can follow um, Omar on his Twitter handle and check out the interview. But one of the important things he said in that interview was, sometimes when you have these players play under 16, under 17, you know, and there's no connection between them and, let's say, Nigeria or Ghana, or even in some circumstances, no connection between them and Ireland, because sometimes you have players who have dual nationality, England and Ireland, England and Scotland, and there's no connection between the Nigerian FA in our own situation with that player while they're developing all through. It becomes, sometimes the player becomes wired to say, "Okay, all I know is England, so I'm going to play for England." And then you have you have that issue as well. And then one thing we fail to understand is the battle for these players is won psychologically, you know, because a lot of these players, I was watching an interview, I was watching a football match, and there was this former Manchester City defender. I'm certain he was, because usually, in commentaries, you have the journalist commentator and you have the former player commentator, right? So, I think Danny Mills, I'm 90% sure he was the one. And then, so during the the game, the journalist commentator was talking about the players, saying, going on about how the players, some of a lot of the players they have are eligible to play for Nigeria and England as well, and we're having that sort of discussion, and then Danny Mills came on to say, "Oh, and why should they want to play for Nigeria? Why should they want to play for Nigerian Super Eagles? What are they going to gain? You know, what would that achieve in what would that do for their careers? You know, uh, what would it even mean for them? The most they can win is the AFCON and all that. Now, that's just to show you that a lot of these players, they have their minds and their egos affected. Some of them are made to feel like if you play for the Nigerian Super Eagles, your career is not going anywhere. If you choose to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles as opposed to playing for England or playing for Germany, you have chosen the lower ranked team, the team with a lower profile. So that means you're selling yourself short. So you have that psychological battle in the heads of these players. And that's why the connection between the Nigerian Football Federation and these players and their parents and their families is very, very important. So sometimes when you hear the NFF are trying to talk to a player and then people start going, oh, this player is arrogant, he doesn't want to play for Nigeria. That connection needs to be there. When people say that, I ask them this question: why is it that Moroccan players that have dual nationality, whether Morocco and Spain, Morocco and Holland, Morocco and England, why do they opt to play for Morocco? Because that connection is there. Their FA is beginning to build that connection. Lots of players that played in the World Cup for Morocco, had dual nationality, Moroccan nationality, and Dutch nationality. So that's proves to us that if an African FA decides to take it upon themselves and be serious about getting a player to play for them, it would, more often than not, it's going to happen. The player will opt to play, for this team, especially when you build that connection. Now, don't get me wrong. Every now and again, you would have someone like, Kevin Shada. His dad is Nigerian. He says, "Oh, I'm German. That's all I know." Fed used to him. Oh, he's opted to play for Germany. You've tried your best. He says he's German. He wants to play for Germany. That's fine. No problem whatsoever. He plays for Germany. You know, but most of the time, the NFF fail, to build this connection with the players. And then one other thing as well that I blame the Nigerian media for, and sometimes some people in Nigeria that I blame, is when it comes to hyping, creating positive narrative around Nigerian players. Because sometimes these players will be watching and say, when you know, when I'm sort of set to play for England, I get this hype, I get this positive narrative, I get how the media talks well about me. Like for instance, Liam Delap, if and when he leaves Ipswich Town, come the end of the season, he'll be a 60, 70 million pound player. And this is his first time, this is his first season in the top flight football. And all this is because he's playing well this first season. You're having this positive narrative build around the player. Look at Cole Palmer. He's a good player. Very, very good player. I'm not saying he's not good. Chelsea player, one of the most important players for Chelsea. But you see the positive narrative built around him. That raises his stock even higher. But for Nigerian players, for whatever reason, we don't seem to give this positive narrative around these players. And at one point in my life, I used to be like, okay, when this player looked like he was going to play for England or play for Germany, there's a positive narrative around the player, like a Victor Moses, for instance. And then when this player switches nationality to play for Nigeria, this positive narrative disappear. I used to be like, oh, that's unfair. You should keep it, you should maintain the same energy no matter what, despite the fact the player has switched nationality to a different country to play for. But then as I grew older, I realized that no, while it would be nice, for Talk Sport, for BBC, for Sky Sports, to build this positive narrative around this player, it would be nice, but it is no longer their responsibility. As the player switches his nationality, it is no longer their place to prop up these players anymore because they wouldn't want to be propping up the value of a player that's not an English player, that's not a German player, not a Spanish player, that's not representing their country. So that means it then rests on the shoulders of people who are content creators like myself, the media, and the citizens in general. You know, there was a video I did. I was responding to something um, someone on Paul's TV or Paul something, or a podcast something was going on about. Imagine saying someone like a Victor Boniface doesn't have talent, and that is what gets you going. And you are laughing on the video. Someone who's won the German Bundesliga, won the German Cup as well, was a huge contributor to that fact. You know, it's not like one of these players where you have them sitting on the bench, come on 2 minutes, sit on the bench, come on 3 minutes, and you just have a medal. Crucial part, scored tons of goals, and you come on TV, you come on YouTube, you come on whatever platform, and you say this player doesn't have any talent. Now, if I was Enua Adedeji, for instance, and I see that would that inspire me to want to play for Nigeria? It wouldn't, because that means your profile takes a plummet. And one thing I must point out to people, and this applies to club football and international football, right? We are fans. We love the game. We watch the game. We cheer, for the players. The players, they are fans. They love the game as well. But it also is a profession for them as well. It is how they earn their daily bread. It's how they earn their living. So, if making a decision to play for a country would affect my brand as a player, I'll think about it deeply. I'll think about it a little bit. Say, is this the right decision for me to make? If whilst I'm looking like I'll play for Germany, for England, for Brazil, my value is seen as maybe I'm a £50 million player, probably I'll attract a weekly wage of £150,000 a week. And then if I see that if I switch to Nigeria, switch to Ghana, you know, my value somehow, because the narrative disappears, will now be maybe 25, £30 million player, as opposed to earning 150 million, £150,000 a week, and now will be earning 80, £95,000 a week. Now, for you and I, everyday folk, that's huge money. But for professional footballers, that is a clear diminishing of their value. That's a clear diminution of their value. So these are the reasons. These are some of the reasons you don't have these players playing, for a country like Nigeria. I'm focusing on Nigeria, a country like Nigeria. Now, like I've said, you could have a player who's made that decision from the get-go. All I know is England. All I know is Spain. All I know is Italy. I know my mom is from Edo State. I know my dad is from Anambra State. But this all I know. My friends, everything. Fair dues. That's fair. No worries. And that's what I like. The players should be able to make that decision. But you, as a national team, you, as a football federation that wants to get this player to play for your country, you should do your utmost. And by your utmost, I mean you should build that connection with them and their families when they're 16, 17. And you build that connection and you know how they're doing, check on their welfare, see how they're developing, so they know they have indeed this link, this connection with these players. And then for Nigerians as a people and content creators generally, be mindful of the things you say. I'm not saying don't criticize anybody objectively. That's it. If someone doesn't score goals, if someone is in poor form, you criticize the person like I criticize Iwobi every time. But you don't just go and lambast people just because for fun, just so you get engagement, just so you get clicks, because that has long-term effect. That has long-term effect. So at this point, I'm coming towards the end of this video. I want to know your thoughts and opinion on this issue. So why do you think a lot of these players don't play for Nigerian Super Eagles? And I've said it before I end the video, but please do subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you're notified each time I go on live or I post a pre-recorded video, and share the video as well. But I want to leave us with this. But each time I say, this player should play for this country, play for Nigeria. Say, oh no, we don't want to beg anybody. Oh, these players are arrogant. Why is it that we only see Nigerian players or players that need to play for Nigeria as arrogant? But for Morocco, they don't be the players are not arrogant. For Algeria, the players are not arrogant. The reason is it's not a question of arrogance, it's a question of the effort these countries make to get their players to play for to get those players to commit to their national team. And I think this is what the NFF should be focusing on doing. And I've heard some news lately that Eric Chell is in England to speak with some of the players. And for me, I don't even think he should be speaking with established internationals already playing for the country, because those ones are known. Once you invite them, they're going to come. People you should be focusing on are people like Ethan Wannery that still has a decision to make and can contribute greatly to to the national team. So I think those are the kind of people you should focus on. Maybe go to Belgium, talk to Noah Adeji Sternberg, and see if you can get the committee on Nigerian Super Eagles. I think these are things that can be done to sort of, would I say, rectify the situation, but at least to get the ball moving. At this point, I've come to the end of today's video. Forgive me, it was a bit long today, but I had to go a bit in depth. So at this point, I'd like to say, do have a splendid rest of your day. Stay well and stay blessed. Bye.